Welcome to the Strokecast. A Generation X stroke survivor explores rehab, recovery, the frontiers of neuroscience, and how to peel a banana with one hand.
Hello, I'm Bill Monroe, and welcome to episode 16 of Strokecast. This week, let's talk about the Microsoft Ability Summit and neurofatigue. So I attended the Microsoft Ability Summit today. Actually, it was day 2. Day 1 was for internal folks, and for day 2, for the first time, they opened it up to the general public. It was a job fair featuring more than 20 companies, including Microsoft's big frenemy these days, Amazon. There were also recruiters there from Microsoft, as well as, of course, the other companies. And recruiters were actually doing quick resume reviews for folks who might be interested in working for Microsoft or working for Microsoft again. They had folks from LinkedIn there talking about profiles and what should be a part of your LinkedIn profiles. They were doing free headshots for anyone who was attending the event as well. And they had a product fair. The whole event was focused on recruiting folks who have some sort of disability, although it wasn't restricted to folks with disabilities. And the product fair was all about showcasing Microsoft technology that is designed to make Windows and the world in general more accessible. During their opening keynote, they actually showed a number of really cool tech demos, including a product I just found out about a few days ago and have been starting to look into a little bit more. It's called PowerPoint Translator. And basically what this does is it lets you conduct your PowerPoint slideshow during your presentation, and it will subtitle it live. So you actually use a microphone to pick up what you're saying and connect the computer to the internet, and PowerPoint Translator will go ahead and do live subtitles for your discussion. So you can actually show those subtitles right on top of your slide. The other really cool thing about it is that if members of your audience have a smartphone, they can actually follow along with your subtitles in a different language. So that is really cool. It actually does language translation on the destination device as well as subtitling it. I think this is going to be a really interesting tool for use in, for example, support groups. One of the things that we've done in the Seattle Young Adult Stroke Survivors group in the past is we'd have someone actually typing a live transcript of what the speaker is saying. The problem with that is that means the speaker can't use slides. Now, with many presenters out there in the world, not letting them use PowerPoint may actually be a good thing. But if a speaker does have value in using PowerPoint slides, being able to live subtitle it may actually be a good solution for folks who may have some language processing challenges. So we're going to have to look into that a little bit more. And I'd be interested in hearing from other folks who've used this tool out there, especially if you've had members of your audience with aphasia. I'd love to know if the live subtitles help them follow along with the presentation, or if it added just another layer of challenge and made it more difficult, and just that sort of general experience. You can let us know about that in the comments at strokecast.com/neurofatigue, or just send an email to bill@strokecast.com. I'll probably be talking more about this tool in my other podcast over at 2 Minute Talk Tips, because it really does have fascinating implications for public speakers. But in addition to cool tech demos, the event also included a number of other accommodations for folks with various disabilities. They set aside a quiet room for folks who really needed to step away from the hustle and bustle of the event. They had Braille on just about everything, including the free soda refrigerators. They provided ASL interpreters. They provided folks to help those with visual challenges get around. They even provided relief areas for the various service dogs attending the event. And I gotta say, these were some of the best behaved dogs I have ever seen. I mean, I've seen plenty of service dogs out and about and doing their job and doing it very well, but what I personally haven't seen in the past is so many service dogs in one place, standing next to one another and not even reacting to one another. It was really impressive. Overall, it was a really cool initiative. If you'd like to look into it a little bit more, you can check out a bunch of tweets about the event by searching for the hashtag Ability Summit. This kicked off the event with a series of keynotes. As I said, that's where they were using the PowerPoint translator demo. Among the things that struck me was that the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, actually came out to speak to the crowd of about 1,000 folks. And one of the things he said up there on the stage was, "I'm never satisfied with any progress. That's why you wake up in the morning." And I think that really demonstrates an important commitment to making products more accessible, to really helping those of us with disabilities to engage more fully in the world. It's part of Microsoft's mission statement these days to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. So kudos to Microsoft for putting this event together. I'm excited to see where my next adventure takes me, especially after having conversations with various recruiters. I'd encourage you to go ahead and look for similar events in your area. Check out the major employers in your area and see what they are doing for accessibility initiatives, and go ahead and ask them. And if they are sponsoring any of these open houses or summits or job fairs, definitely go ahead and check them out if you are looking for work or if you are looking to change your current work. So overall, it was a great experience. But let's talk about neurofatigue, because I sure felt it this evening. The most important thing to know about neurofatigue is that it is a real thing. It's normal and it's common in folks who have survived a stroke. Prior to stroke, I would go a week or more sometimes, getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night, and I would be fine, or, well, at least I thought I was fine. As I found out later, I also had sleep apnea, so I wasn't even getting good quality sleep then. Now what I find is that I need a good 7 hours of sleep to be at my best, and, well, more is always better. It's almost like I require an average amount of sleep now, which is very different for me. The other thing that's different is that my fatigue level is kind of like a 3-year-old cell phone. You know how if you're using your old phone, the battery indicator will show that you've got 50% of your battery life remaining, and then suddenly, a couple minutes later, it shows you've got 5% remaining, and it appears there's no warning. You just go from 50% down to 5%, and the phone just starts shutting off. You see, I used to get tired gradually. I would start to get tired, an hour later I'd be a little more tired, another hour later I'd be even a little more tired, and would go like that until it was time to go to bed. Now what I find is I may go through a day or go through an afternoon, I'm feeling fine, I'm feeling rested, and then sometimes I hit that wall where all of a sudden I go from being fine to needing a nap right now. Here's the thing about that neurofatigue is that it's also not just about being sleepy and not just about wanting that nap. When neurofatigue kicks in, other things kick in as well. My tone and spasticity will actually increase. My movement quality will decline. My gait will be a little more wonky. In general, other limitations that result from the stroke will start to pop up as the brain runs low on resources required to manage them. Of course, on the plus side, the fact that neurofatigue is a thing means I no longer need to feel guilty about wanting to take a nap from time to time. And I'll find that different things will sap my energy, and based on my conversations I've had with other stroke survivors, this seems to be pretty common. I felt the neurofatigue really strongly when I got home from the Ability Summit. And there's a number of reasons for that. To begin with, I probably should have gotten more than 4 hours of sleep the night before, but, you know, old habits die hard. The Ability Summit itself was a total of about 4 hours, and in that 4 hours, I met with folks, I met with recruiters, I stood in lines, I tweeted during the keynotes, and I took in this amazing cacophony of sights, sounds, and experiences. And that burns a ton of mental energy. Lots of noise, lots of sound, lots of visuals, lots of high-stakes conversations. And then after that, Seattle traffic took out the rest of my energy. And after getting home and making a sandwich, I hit that wall. I crashed and took a nice 4-hour nap. So why does this happen? Why is neurofatigue a thing? I talked about it a little bit in episode 2, where I talked about how all the stroke stuff is literally all in my head. The brain is working harder than it did pre-stroke. It used to be able to rely on a bunch of cells that are now dead. Other nerves have to step up and keep me going, managing those high-stakes conversations, processing all that sensory data, engaging with other attendees, and keeping me moving. Neuroplasticity makes all of that possible, but it doesn't always make it easy, especially since I'm just about 1 year post-stroke now. Over at braininjuryexplanation.com, they actually have some pretty good explanations of the various consequences of a brain injury, as you would hope given their URL. You can go ahead and find a link to this article in the show notes over at strokecast.com/neurofatigue. What they say over there is that more brain areas are involved in performing normal activities than before the brain injury. That difference can be seen with PET scans. Parts of the brain that normally show little activity while performing a specific action now become actively involved in the brain's functioning after the injury. This requires many extra bypasses and consumes more energy to complete. Therefore, the reaction time of a brain-injured person is often slower and requires more energy to reach the same point. It can make someone really tired. The fact is that the same tasks that we used to do before stroke simply take more energy now than they did beforehand, and they start from a point where you have lower capacity to begin with. Fortunately, there are ways that we can deal with neurofatigue. We can minimize the impact it has on us and address it when it does rear its ugly head. There are 7 ways that I found that helps deal with it. First is to rest. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and close your eyes or just rest and relax for a few minutes and then dive back into the activities that you're working on pursuing. Number 2 is to reduce sensory input. Reducing sensory input was something I never actually really thought about before the stroke, but sometimes when you find you're in an environment with lots of interesting visual elements and lots of noise and lots of different things happening, that's a lot of information for the brain to process. See, one of the things the brain is really good at is ignoring information. The vast majority of the information that we encounter every day, our brain just ignores until we choose to pay attention to it. Just stop for a moment and think about all of the sounds that you hear right now. Obviously you hear my voice, but if you actually pay attention, you may hear traffic outside your door. You may hear a refrigerator vibrating. You may hear muted conversations from coworkers. There's all sorts of other sounds that are out there that the brain spends a lot of time ignoring and spends a lot of energy filtering. So one of the things to help address and prevent neurofatigue is that from time to time, go ahead and do something to minimize that sensory input. Maybe that means closing your eyes. Maybe that means taking advantage of things like the quiet room at the Ability Summit or other similar types of environments. Maybe that means turning down the lights, or maybe that means turning off the TV that might be running in the background. There are lots of things we can do to reduce that sensory input to preserve our energy for the things we really need it for. Number 3, go ahead and take a nap. You've earned it. Naps are good. Naps are fun. Number 4, eat right. Eating right is just generally good advice for most things. Eat a healthy diet. Your medical team can provide recommendations on exactly what that should be. I think generally folks are recommending lower cholesterol things, more fresh fruits and vegetables, fewer processed foods, fewer carbs, but obviously that's going to vary person to person based on your specific dietary needs. So check with your medical team on that. Number 5, hydrate. It's amazing how powerful a simple thing like water can be. And most folks simply don't drink enough water. And when we're dehydrated, that can lead to headaches. It can lead to less efficient brain functioning. And we need all the efficiency we can get these days. So go ahead and make sure you are drinking plenty of water. Number 6 is to talk to your doctor. Make sure that you are exploring things you need to do to make sure you are getting quality sleep. One of the things I found out post-stroke was that I actually had sleep apnea, which means that it turned out I was actually waking up about 59 times every hour, which means my brain was never really getting adequate rest and probably hadn't for 20 some years. So make sure you talk to your doctor about quality sleep. A side note on sleep apnea, this is one of those things that may be difficult to self-diagnose because, well, you seem to be asleep. If you generally wake up with a very dry mouth, there may be some sleep apnea at play. But one of the most effective folks to give you some idea that this might be something to deal with will be a bedroom partner. If they report that you're snoring a lot, or loudly, or unrhythmically, that is definitely a classic sign of sleep apnea. Of course, it's not the only one, so you should definitely talk to your doctor, because one of the best ways to reduce the fatigue you have later in the day is to make sure that you are getting good sleep the night before. Because remember, when it comes to stroke recovery, sleep is work. You are working when you're asleep. And I guess number 7 would be to simply don't stay up all night working on podcasts before you go to events. That might not be the most general advice, though. Anyway, that brings us to our hack of the week, is to get a tightly closing thermos with a handle. I have a nice metal one with a screw-on lid. What this means is that I can actually carry my tea or my coffee to another room with my affected hand. And this is important because my unaffected hand is usually holding my cane, or it is holding onto the railing that goes up and down the stairs. The other nice thing about this is that it means I can actually make my tone and spasticity work for me. I have just enough grip in my affected hand to sort of start to close my fingers around the handle of my thermos, and then the tone will sort of keep them in place. It really wants to make a fist, so this is one way to actually go ahead and take advantage of that. Then I can go ahead and carry my thermos full of tea or coffee on up the stairs to my home office. The particular brand that I have is one that Kathy and I picked up at Ranch 99, which is an Asian grocery store you see on the west coast of the U.S. And the brand is actually B-U-B-E-E. Or Booby, which amuses my inner 12-year-old to no end. So go ahead and pick up a thermos with a handle, and if you get extra amusement from the brand, well, fantastic. That's just gravy. So that's it for this week. Did your doctors and therapists tell you that neurofatigue was a thing? How do you manage it? Go ahead and tell us about it in the comments at strokecast.com/neurofatigue. And do you want to help Strokecast? Best way to help is to go ahead and share this podcast with more of your friends and colleagues and even random strangers. You can go ahead and tell your friends on Twitter or Facebook or whatever other social channels they use that they can learn why you or other stroke survivors that you know might need a nap. Go ahead and post the link strokecast.com/neurofatigue. If you find yourself needing to consume beverages around your home, either because you like tea and coffee or you just realize you need to hydrate more, consider a thermal mug with a handle. And of course, as always, don't get best, get better. Thanks a lot. I'm Bill Monroe, and I'll talk to you next week after a nap or two.
The Strokecast, Bill Monroe, and Bill's guests provide general information and entertainment, not medical advice. Please do not make any changes to your treatment plan or the execution of your treatment plan without first consulting your personal doctor or medical team. The Strokecast is a proud production of the Currently Speaking Podcast Network.